Okay, welcome back. Bit of a different video today. Take a break from sculpting. I thought I'd look at the UI because I know a lot of people struggle with ZBrush's UI, and it's something that I've not really had problems with. And I get it to a degree because some things aren't where you think they would be, but maybe it's because I was sculpting in Blender for a bit before this. But I found when I switched to ZBrush, I was fully expecting to struggle, but I found it quite intuitive. And I think partly because I made my own UI early on, uh, you know, to try and get used to a workflow that way, and I think it worked quite well. So what I want to do in this video is just to, this is more for your very first time in ZBrush. Yeah, so what I want to do is create a very basic UI with everything I think you should need to get started with sculpting quickly, so that's all you can focus on. It's just the sculpting, which is what we want, right? We don't want to go through menus looking for all this crap. So hopefully this will help. And the first thing you want to do, really, I think, is to make sure your document's the right size. Oh no, actually, the very first thing you should do is go to preferences and your quick saves. Um, I would change this because ZBrush quick saves like crazy, and I didn't know this first of all, and I just ran out of, this thing filled up my hard drive. It was just saving all the time. So I think I've got it set to something like an hour. I think that's pretty good because I save quite a bit anyway. So the quick saves are just a backup. And you change this to what you want. I mean, at the moment it's set to 20, but I would say an hour, um, maybe even longer if you want to risk it. I find the program quite stable, so I'm not too worried about crashes. It happens, and it has happened to me, but I find an hour is fine. The undo history as well, because you know this saves undos to your subtools. So the more subtools you have, that undo history all piles up. So I'd take that right down as well. So take that right down, um, and this will just help your file sizes when you're saving things. So just be mindful of those two things: the quick save and the undo history, uh, and you'll find it much more optimal. Right. So first thing you want to check is where's document. So this you'd probably be fine with 1920 by 1080 in most cases. Um, I don't know why it's that for me, but I've set mine to my resolution on my monitor. So this is 1440p that I work on. So I've set it to that, but I think I was working 1920 to 1080 for a while. So that'll be fine. Now what we're gonna basically be doing is putting the things from the menus into the UI so it's there for you, whenever you want them. I'm not going to do it in floating menus, things like that, because you kind of need to know what you're going to use before you put them in shortcut menus like that. Um, so we're just going to keep it nice and simple. So what we do, preferences, configuration, and enable customize. And we can place things anywhere around the UI. And this is the thing that I love the most about ZBrush, because with the programs I use, I don't like a lot of clutter. Like even this is too much for me. Like when I'm working in Photoshop, when I'm painting something, some detailed picture, I just like to have the canvas, no menus open, anything like that. So in ZBrush, I like to keep it as minimal as possible. Having said that, I am going to be putting extra things, on the screen. But again, once you figure out the things that you want to use and that you use the most, then you can start hiding them in, sub menus and things like that. But right now, I think I'll put it at the bottom, everything we're going to do. And I'll do this in order of the way that I think is best working wise too. So first of all, we are going to start with geometry, and we're going to open up Dynamesh. Now the first thing we're going to get is this nice big bright Dynamesh button. I'm going to hold Control and Alt, and then I'll be able to pull it, basically duplicate the button, and just put it down here. And we're going to take a few of these options as well. Definitely take the resolution slider. And we'll take the picker. All this while I'm holding Control and Alt, so I can just quickly move things. If you take something and don't want it, just drag it into the screen, into the working area, and it disappears. We'll take blur as well, but that's pretty much, the resolution slider and the picker is all you need for Dynamesh. We're going to space things out a bit down here. I'm just going to take breaks just so that you can easily see each section. So again, if we go up to preferences and custom UI, you get these spaces. These are really nice to use, because you can butt things up against them. Sometimes if you don't, and you're altering things, you might get boxes overlap with other boxes. That just kind of happens now and again. So I like to use these. Again, Control Alt and just grab the size that you want. Let's grab this one here. So put that one there. Should we have two? Nah, it's a bit much. Okay, what we got next? I think we should look at subtool. Go down here to, this is in the subtool palette. So right now we just got our polysphere. And we're going to go all the way down to extract. This is what I've been using to, using the mask to draw onto the shape and then extract that shape, zero mesh it, and get another mesh that way. So same deal, Control Alt, grab the extract button, slide it right in next to that spacer we got there. These won't show up when you exit customize, so you just have like a gap there. I'm going to take smooth, put that right next to the button. Thickness, next to the button. I use smooth to the maximum, and actually, let's do it here. Smooth to max and no thickness, because I add the thickness with panel loops, but that's up to you. You can use thickness if you want. I will take all the options here. Obviously, you need accept to get the mesh. Double. I don't use really many of these options because, like I said, I like to just get the thin mesh, add thickness later. So that's pretty much what I'll do for the extract. And while we're here, let's grab another spacer. Control Alt, grab it down. And now from here, we'll go back to geometry. going to go to ZBrush now. And this is, like I said, what I do after I've extracted. So, big ZBrush button, Control Alt, grab it down here, and definitely going to want the retry button if you pull ZBrush out of the menus. This is because when you use ZBrush and say you're not happy with the first iteration, you can do it again alternately by holding Control or Alt, and it'll give you another algorithm. This doesn't work with the shortcuts that you put on the UI. So to do the Alt or Control algorithm, I found you have to go back into this menu and do it here. Um, they've kind of solved it with the new versions of ZBrush by having this retry. So if you do a Z remesh and you don't like it, just hit retry and just keep doing that, until it gets until you get a result that you want. But I find myself using the retry more now than the alternate method, but it depends. Sometimes you might want to. There is some more options that you want to take over with Z remesher. So obviously the polygon count. I don't know if we can put that here, can we? Oh yeah, we can. I will put these here, but you can figure out which ones you want to use. I don't use adapt. I turn it off all the time. Um, and adaptive size, I don't use that at all either. I find I get kind of dirty geometry if I do that. Um, but again, up to you if you want to use it or not. Keep creases. Don't really use that. Again, I'm trying to keep this to a minimum, so keep groups, absolutely. Going to be working with polygroups. Freeze border, freeze groups, yes. And to start with, you may only be using like these buttons here. So Z remesher, retry, and definitely obviously the polygon count. Keep groups and freeze groups, things like that is when obviously you're working a bit further on, and you're ready to subdivide and you've got polygroups set up, that kind of thing. But really it's just this kind of workflow here that we're focusing on now, something simplified. Modified topology. We do want some things here. See, like mirror and weld, we definitely want that out. I will put that probably up the top. I think that's where I've got it. So I'll pull that out, put it up here. And this is one of the things that confuses me, like why mirror is not here. Mirror is actually in another menu, which we will get in a second, but I have seen. Delete hidden is always useful to have, because once you've, say you put a poly group down, and you want to just, you duplicated your object and you just want this specific poly group, select that, isolate it, hide the rest, then you can delete the rest. So delete hidden is a nice one to have. Don't think I'm really going to take anything else from here. No. So if we go down to deformations, and this took me ages to find it, I probably should have just looked it up, but mirror is here. So we're going to grab that and put it right next to mirror and weld. We'll come back to these things a little bit later on because there are some polishes that we'll put up there. But right now, should I put crease in there? See, this is pretty much all you need to get started, but Alright, let's put some crease options in. So crease all. Again, they're useful if you're working with the Zbrush. I'm going to put these in. Um, let's put another spacer in that. But this one is like an optional at this point, right? Because the Zbrush takes a lot of practice. I can't even remember myself, you know, all the shortcuts to things to use that. I haven't used it a whole lot, and I don't want to use it. I only want to use it when I have to. Adding creases, extruding, things like that. I don't want to model with it or anything. I want to just do the sculpting and have that as a backup. But it is a really important tool. So I would definitely put some crease options in here if it were me. Again, at this point, not super important, but at least it's there. So the tolerance and the crease level, you definitely use the crease level every time you use creases. So obviously it's set at 15, which is like 15 subdivisions, which is useless. Normally I have this at 1 or 2. And the tolerance, I very rarely change that. Only sometimes if I want to create polygroups from creases, but that's very rare. So you can leave that most of the time. But the crease level, definitely like 1 or 2 mostly. And I'm just going to put these in here. Actually, I'll just have uncrease all. But these are some of the things that I use. And I think that's pretty much it for that. Now the last stage, I will say, let's just grab a little spacer so we can keep this kind of neat. The last thing is in the deformations, and these things I would use to polish the mesh, but kind of not if you use creases, because if you use creases and you polish, sometimes you'll find that you'll see that very harsh crease line through the smooth surface. So if you're not going to use creases, then use polish, and you can control the how smooth your mesh looks through that. So I will put those down here. So let's go to deformation, and these options here will just take say polish by features, absolutely, because you can use that when you're zero meshing. Polish by groups, yes. The rest of them, relax. I tend to use the smooth brush. When you select a really low strength, then I think you hold, is it shift, and then put the cursor on the model and then release shift with the cursor still down, and you can smooth the mesh out. That's what I tend to use rather than a relax. The relax is a little bit too strong here. So Control Alt again, and we'll grab polish by features, and polish by groups. So this one again is optional. When they've got an open circle like this, they're very strong. So I would keep these mostly closed off, unless of course you've got a really dense model and you kind of need the to open them up to get more aggressive results. But I would say this is a pretty good starting spot for your options. Now let's open up this side, and we'll put some brushes down here. See, at the moment these buttons are huge, so if we go to preferences, and I think it is in interface. Again, you can change the button size as well, so you can have all these smaller. I think I might have got my ones around 38, something like that. See, there's wide buttons. Just turn that off, and you get nice little square ones. So we can fit some brushes in here. So same deal. Got the brushes. Control Alt, and we're just going to take the brushes that we use a lot. Obviously, Move is one of the top ones. Um, let's put another spacer there just to make it neat. Again, you don't have to use these. It's just I find them useful. Um, so Move, clay build-up. Got to be one of the top brushes ever. Um, Standard. This is the one I use for alphas as well, because I'm not really too concerned about settings, so I just use that one as a base. See, damn standard, absolutely. H polish, of course, a staple. Trim dynamic as well. I do like trim dynamic. That one's optional. It's not. I wouldn't say it's like an essential. Same with planar. I don't use planar very often. I do use inflate, but yeah, we'll stick it there. Yeah, I have some options. Um, these ones here you'll see the orb brushes, orb crack. Orb crack I use loads. I'll put that in there just to remind kind of anybody who sees this to get these brushes because they are free and they're awesome. Orb crack I use all the time. Um, and I use clip curve and slice for polygroup sometimes, but I will put clip curve in because that's good. We're working with Dynamesh, um, and I'll put ZModeler in as well because even though you might be a hardcore sculptor and not want to do any of that modeling stuff like me, um, there are some things where it's just easier to use ZModeler. So that brush is very useful, and like I said, I use it in the most basic sense. So uh, you know, moving edges around, extruding, uh, thickness, just things like that. Poly loops, poly groups. So nothing heavy. But the rest of them, is standard preference. Like paint, I think I've got paint there just in case I want to put some poly groups down using poly paint. Pinch. I think I have all these brushes. The smooth, I obviously I use smooth a lot, but I use the smooth stronger, which you can find in the light box. So if you go to brushes and you go into smooth, smooth stronger's here, and this one you'll find is really good for when your models get dense. Yeah, it just works really well, and the other smooth brush will just do nothing. So yeah, check this brush thing out. It's a little bit fussy in ZBrush to get brushes out because you have to kind of find them in your system folder and put them in to the ZBrush system folder. So it's a bit. I mean, you can find plenty of tutorials online, how to do it. Um, but it's not the most streamlined, I don't think. But once you've done it a couple of times, it's fine. Okay, so we've got our brushes here that we mostly use, and we've got the simplified workflow down here. Now let's get some materials. So we'll get rid of this. Don't want that anymore. And we'll go to materials. Put that over here. These ones I think are all of my materials that I've got on my UI. You definitely want a few of these. So let's take again Control and Alt. we're going to grab this basic matte cap. I'll put that. Let's put it down here. Grab a spacer. So that one, that might be your basic, working matte cap. I like to get a muted one, just so that I can check the surfaces. And where is this? Oh yeah, toy plastic. I do like that one because of the aggressive shine, but I've got other ones here that kind of do that, like this reflective one. This is really good in conjunction. I'm gonna put this down here with the metal, just so that when you're polishing your mesh, you switch over to these glossy matte caps, and you can just judge the bumps on the surface a little better. Nice smooth, uh, soft H polish to really iron out the mesh, and I'll do that before I add any thickness or anything. So I find those useful. I'm not going to go crazy here, so I think this one's really nice as well. This Gorilla, I think you call it Gorilla Black. Um, that's really nice. I can't remember the one I use. I think it might be this one, basic material. I quite like working with a white one. Um, I think most people use like the basic, but flat color. Let's have one more and just make it nice and even. So, can't mind the red. Who uses that, honestly? Chalk. Take toy plastic. So we got all the reflectives down on the bottom there. So we've got brushes, materials, and all your workflow options down here. Get rid of materials. Open this up. We close that. Yeah. So that's pretty much what your UI will look like now. Like I said, you will just naturally add to these things. But these, can we move this? Yeah, so look, you can even centralize it if you want to. And that kind of bothers me. So yeah, I just as soon as I can, I customize these things just to get used to it. So once you've added to these things, or you find that you use these things a lot, then maybe go into creating the floating menus and things like that, and your shortcut keys. But right now, you don't really need much more than this. And again, I've put things in here that you could probably do without, but everything that you need should be here to start sculpting. And once you're done, you've got to come to config again, click out of customize, and that kind of just kind of gets you ready to save your options. And to do that, you go to save UI, which will take you to the space on your hard drive where you're saving it, what drive that is, and name it. And then you want to, after you've saved it, you want to come back and store configuration so that when you open ZBrush, this is the startup that opens for you. So you open with your own UI. You don't have to wait until you load up a project to get your UI. So I always do that. I always create a UI, save it, come back, store config, and then when you open up, you've got your UI there straight away. And just while we're here, where is it? I think oh yeah, in iColors. So you can, if we come down here, you can literally just quickly change the colors of your buttons really fast. I mean, you can go through this and do all of it, but this is a pretty good way to get a color fast. And there you go. Yeah, created a hopefully simplified UI. I know it looks like there's still a lot of stuff around, but when you start working, um, this stuff makes a lot more sense. Yeah, it's just getting in there and mucking around. But I figured I've seen quite a lot of videos where they're talking about UI, but not a lot of what you need, like as in the basics to actually start sculpting. Because when I was doing this, and like I said, I'm pretty new to ZBrush still. I'm just trying to do it every day. Um, I found that I was looking through menus a lot. So at least here you just pull these things out and they're there for you. So hopefully that helps. And yeah, I'll be back with some more sculpting soon. Working on that character again. It's been a bit of a break because I've had some issues with my computer, but I have still been working, and I will have an update on that soon, and I can get back to doing some work. But right now, I just wanted to do this because I thought about it the other day while I was watching a video on a UI, and I was thinking, you know what, I should do one where I've kind of pulled out some things that I use straight away, and hopefully it can speed someone's process up a little bit. Um, or maybe these things exist and I just struggle too much. But hopefully that helps, and I'll see you in the next video.